Hi, my name is Will Baker. Like I said, first off, I'd just like to begin by saying thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us. I know that myself and everyone in the TEX program is really looking forward to hearing your story and to hearing more about the Tibetan Youth Congress. Like we talked about, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to start by just asking a few personal questions, and then we can get more into kind of the goals and ambitions of the Youth Congress and kind of what you guys are doing on a daily basis. When and where were you born?
Hi, thank you first of all for coming all the way to Dharamsala and TYC office. My name is Tsewang, and I'm born and brought up in Nepal, Kathmandu. And yeah, actually I'm like one of the youths who never been or seen Tibet, but still like very much eager to, go back to free Tibet. And that's what I've been working since, since I realized that Tibet really needs me. And like my father, who was also a former Tibetan army, and during his youth time and his mates really worked hard for Tibet to protect the land and Tibetan people. And I'm sure you must have heard the gorilla, the Tibetan army, who was trained by CIA. So during that time, they were very young and they really worked very hard, and also fought with the Chinese and killed many Chinese as well during that time from 1959 to 1973-4. So, and then his stories really made me kind of like inspiration, and because I was brought up like this, hearing all these stories. And so then 2008 was that year really shook me, actually wake me up, that I was also very young, teenage. So, and then since then I started working for our Tibetan community by social service, and that's how I was connected to Regional Tibetan Youth Congress in Kathmandu.
Just to kind of keep going there, did you say you were born in Kathmandu in Nepal? What was your childhood like? Did you have any brothers and sisters? Do you have any like kind of vivid memories about growing up as a Tibetan in exile in Nepal?
I have only one elder sister, but I born in a very big family where all my mother's sides, the family, we have a quite big. I have lots of first cousin sisters and brothers. So, and that's why we lived quite together. And then we were living in a Tibetan settlement, so Tibetans are quite unity. And that also was also one thing that, like our forefathers and His Holiness always like wish, Tibetan to all live together, preserve Tibetan culture and tradition and all these things. By living in Nepal, we surely speak Nepali, but at the same time we are more focused in Tibetan culture language. So that's why we don't have really much problem, even though brought up in exile. But talking about Nepal, Tibetan living in Nepal, it's like a second Tibet, because I know I was one of the activists, very active member of Regional Tibetan Youth Congress over there. So while being a member over there, China's been always watching you. So because I did a president of Regional Tibetan Youth Congress Kathmandu 3 years, and so during those 3 years was the kind of year that I was never going to forget. Being an activist, working for Tibetan issues is not that easy, especially in Nepal. And then that also made me realize that how Tibetan inside Tibet, they are very brave, They are under China every day and night, and then so much pressure, restriction everywhere, but still they are so brave, coming out, doing different kinds of solo protests or group protests, and protests in different means, like by singing, writing, taking His Holiness picture, showing their they are not happy under China. And me born up and working in Nepal, like even in the very democratic country, but still we don't have that much rights, like in freedom country. So that kind of like really, sometimes we feel very suffocate. Even you are in the freedom country, but you don't have that freedom, access, especially for Tibetan. And also like my experience was like. Because we have lots of Chinese agents who working for China, and then they keep on calling you, threat you, life threatening, all these kind of things, So wherever you're going for a meeting or anything, they already got information and they chase you, So these kind of things made me quite strong actually, So sometimes when they call me, they always say it's like, if you attend this kind of meeting, this and that, or if you don't give out the information, what you're going to do, or this strategy plan, all this, they always threat me, but I always tell them like, please keep on calling me, because that really made me kind of strength to do more for my people, So these kind of things, I'm not that brave, but this kind of track made me quite strong. So coming over here in India, since I was elected in the board member in the 2013, and this is my second term actually. So yeah, and then since working here in India, for me was totally different, because in Nepal I'm a refugee, and then you don't have that much freedom. But coming to India, I'm second refugee, but you have a lot of access of freedom to do many things for Tibet and Tibetan people. So that's a big different things, So I know Tibetan living in Nepal still have a lot of problem, Not only political problem, but also those who are born and brought up my age, still they don't have a document problem, So yeah, so this kind of surrounding I was born and brought up, Yeah.
That's really remarkable. Like what you're saying about joining the Tibetan Youth Congress regional in Kathmandu at a young age. So you said 2008, right?
2010 actually.
2010. So how old were you at that time?
I was 26.
26? Okay. Were you educated in Kathmandu as well?
Yes.
Was it kind of a Tibetan education, or was it a local Nepali?
Tibetan.
Tibetan.
Yeah.
All right. Was that kind of administered by the Central Tibetan Administration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Take care of under this education department,
Okay.
And it's like we have all these facilities: English, math, science, geography, where other locals they do. But the extra thing is like Tibetan,
Yeah.
That's the main priority for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit about your education? Was there anything specific that you think was efficient in preparing you for a life in exile? Was there anything like that kind of stood out to you about your education?
Education, actually, frankly speaking, yeah, we were just studying, right? Like,
Yeah.
So for me, like, I learned more like after coming out from school, like by seeing more in larger, like, how
Sure.
Tibetan are like suffering, knowing more, like meeting more Tibetan newcomer from Tibet.
Yeah.
I oftenly visit Tibetan Reception Center, hearing their stories and all these things. That actually like made me more realize that who I am, why I'm here, what I have to do, what my responsibility and duty, all these things, In school, of course, we have to study all these things, but yeah, outside I learned more. Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit about your activism experience? Just what you were working on in Kathmandu, what kind of some of your biggest maybe obstacles were, things that you had to overcome?
Yeah, as I said earlier, in 2008, I'm sure everybody knows that Olympic in China, and then huge crackdown inside Tibet. Lots of Tibetans were genocide that time. So, and then during that time, through international media, lots of news came out, and I mean, like in larger, like in whole world came to know about what's happening inside Tibet at the time. So that also helped me also individual that what our people are really suffering under China, all these things. So during that time, I have worked with a few international media because I love taking pictures. That's my passion, I always, wherever I go, camera is always with me. So I used to contribute the pictures. I used to go often to Chinese embassy to take picture of demonstrations, and then I'm sure there's a record that 2008, 9, 10, Tibetan in Nepal were very brave. Like every day they're doing protests outside Chinese embassy, even though they getting badly beaten, so many days are put in prison, but still they are so, today they are put in prison, evening they were out, but still tomorrow they are willing to go again, This kind of thing I've been seeing around, and then those kind of pictures I was sharing, And I was doing my own part of awareness through social media and sharing pictures with some reporters. And then I made a few friends, international friends, like media friends. Then I started working with them as a translator, because 50 years was about to come. We were here in exile. So I worked few with international media as a translator and coordination to set up interview and all these things. And that was one of the contribution from my side. And then second thing, I did volunteer in old age home, and in where I'm staying in the Tibetan settlement. It's called Jaulakil, where 35 or something like that elderly. Because for me, like living close to them, I know their daily problems and all these things. I'm quite close with them. So I thought, like, okay, because like we are now younger generation, and then their senior citizens are very, very precious for us. They have suffered a lot. They sacrifice a lot for us, for our better future. So for me, always willing to do something, I'm like pay my gratitude to them. So since like 2008 to 2013, I did a volunteer in the old age home. And then my work came to know in few large Tibetan community in Kathmandu. That's how regional Kathmandu was election coming soon. So then during that time, the president came to me and approached that if you're willing to join Tibetan Regional Youth Congress in Kathmandu. Then I said yes, because that's something really connects me, because my stand is completely independent. So then I went to that election day, and that day only I was elected as a president. And that was the 42nd regional Tibetan Youth Congress election. And since before that, there was no president woman. And I'm proud to say that I'm the first woman president that time in regional RTYC. We call it RTYC Kathmandu. So since then, my journey started, in Tibetan Youth Congress. Yeah, and then the 3 years, for me personal, I learned a lot actually, experienced a lot, being an activist, working for Tibet issues is not that easy, and that actually changed me totally. And I was not like I used to look like this. People, I was totally different, So everything's changed day by day, Then 2013 general board member meeting here in Dharamsala, and being a representative from Kathmandu, we had a meeting for 5 days, and then end of the day we had an election for headquarters. And that time with me, like few of our members were elected, and we were that time 15th TYC Centrex member. And then 2016 September we were again re-elected. So I'll be working 2 more years, and 2019 my duty will be complete. Because even though I really wanted to stay in headquarters, but I can't, because we have a rule and regulation that you can do at least 2 terms. 1 term is 3 years, so it's at least 6 years you can able to do it here. So that will be my biggest opportunity to serve my own people.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has your experience been like? Like you mentioned, you were the first female president of the regional.
Regional Tibetan Youth Congress.
Yeah, in Kathmandu. What has your experience been like as a prominent female figure in the Tibetan activist community?
Beginning that was not that easy, because many people think that woman is always weak, and then I even heard of my first day that people kind of says that okay, she won't stay longer, like 1 month or 2 months, because this is not easy task, it's a huge responsibility. But I totally proved them wrong, that I completed 3 years, and then I was elected here in headquarters. So yeah, my term I built a good connection with many diplomatics, like embassies, always updating them what's happening inside Tibet and what's happening in Tibet in Nepal, all these things, and then working close with the human rights activists and sharing the informations. And because we can't do much because of Nepal is totally influenced under China, but we tried our best to time, when time demands, or we're looking at the situations. We have organized so many different activities, and we were arrested many times as well. And some events like Uprising Day or any Tibetan events, whenever it's coming, sometimes we have to run, escape to India. They already plan to arrest us. So sometimes we feel very sad. Even though I can't even stay in my own home, I have to always go underground. So yeah, but it went quite smoothly.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you would have to keep going underground. What was those kinds of what were the thoughts going into your head whenever you're forced to kind of disappear just because of what you believed in?
Actually, for us, if you do protests, if you get beaten, it's fine. It can be cured slowly in few days. But when they keep calling you, threat you, and time to time I have to run away place to place, that's more like a mental trauma, that very hard to cure. And that's why I really, really appreciate still my regional chapter fellows still working very hard. Over there, the situation is not that easy, but still they're working, And but it's very difficult for me to, go under this kind of mental trauma. But still sometimes helps me, but when I look far, my brothers and sisters in Tibet, when I hear the news, how they are suffering, So looking at them, my problem is nothing. Then that really changed me, suddenly, then it really helps me or give me more courage to do more.
Absolutely. So you were appointed as the Secretary of Information, correct, in 2013, and then you moved to Dharamsala. Could you give me kind of a brief overview of what that new position entails, what kind of your responsibilities are here in the TYC?
Yeah. 2013 to 2016, my position was International Relations and Information Secretary. And that time, my main role was to meet new people like you, to share the views and issues of Tibet, and gain more support from international, and also try to contact with many global leaders, to share information and kind of lobby, And also we have a regional chapter also in West Side, North America, Taiwan, Europe. I was also a coordinator. So coordinate with them what to do next, making strategy after 2 months, what we'll do. This kind of I'm coordinating with them.
Okay. How is the kind of lobbying experience gone? Have you found it easier to work with other NGOs, or do you think it's easier to work with governments? Has there been any kind of reluctancy from the international community to kind of deal with the TYC?
For us, what we think is sometimes when we meet people, because our duty is to share them, let them know what really happening inside Tibet, self-immolations and thousands of innocent people are still kept in prisons, and our master, Panchen Rinpoche, he's still disappeared. It's been 22 years. This kind of thing we continue to lobby. It's not that easy, and but our try is always to do it, even though it's hard, but letting other people to know, that is our main achievement, So whether they will do it or not, but our duty is to keep on doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Some Western news sources, like the BBC, have kind of labeled the TYC's perspectives on pro-independence to be radical. Whereas Chinese media outlets like Xinhua have said that the TYC is a terrorist organization. What kind of response would you have to accusations like that, given the context that the TYC's pro-independence stance is different than what the Central Tibet administration has adopted, like the middle way approach?
Yes, yes, as you said, Central Tibetan administration, their policy is middle way, and TYC is like our stand is completely independent.
Right.
And yes, China have in past, like they have given a few baseless statements, you know. For us, that's kind of what we believe is like what we're doing is a good thing, you know, right thing. That really impact what they're saying is, you know. So, because like you guys are the witness, you know. Because if TYC is terrorists, there should be a bomb and gun and everywhere, you know. And we organize a different kind of activities and campaigns. We never use knife or sword or gun or bomb. You know, we always advocate our younger generation to whatever you do, we must do in a non-violence way. You know, people think that independent means like kind of violence, you know, but that's totally wrong. Because we have organized many campaign. Everything we tried our best to do in non-violence way. Yeah, so what China says is totally wrong, and they always say this kind of things, you know. So for us, like we don't care what they're saying, you know. So.
Would you agree with the kind of rhetoric saying that the idea of pro-independence is radical in any kind of sense? Like some people say that, oh, it's just not possible, it can't be achieved diplomatically.
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, because like, look, today I'm working, it's still because I have a hope, you know. And independent is, we just didn't say like, okay, we are, like we used to have a, you know, independent country. It's not like, we didn't make up. These are the evidence, you know, that Tibet was an independent nation. And we are seeking our own birth rights, you know. So China has invited Tibet in 1959, you know. So before that, Tibet was an independent country. So history, they can't change, you know. So we are fighting our own rights. So yeah, I don't think, because like, yeah, we always have a hope, you know, that one day, because it will take time, 10 days, 50 years, you know, we never know, but our struggle must go on, you know, because like India is one of the example and inspiration for us as well. Like they were under British for like 200 years, but at the end of the time, like they got a independent, right? So like other countries as well, like there's a lot of examples who really encourage us, you know, so not to give up, you know. So yeah, we will go back to free Tibet someday. Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Have you found that striving for a totally free and independent Tibet has made it somewhat difficult to interact with like government officials who are more adherent to a middle way approach? Or do you guys find that even though you have different opinions on what the outcome of this situation will be, you still are able to work together pretty well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Whenever we interact or meet with the different government people, we always tell them, you know, like we totally respect the Central Tibetan administration policy. You know, this is a very important struggle. It's not that easy, you know, and sometimes like Tibet issue is forgotten, you know, people take it like that. But because Tibetan struggle is not that easy, it's our fight is with one of the biggest country, you know, with China, and in our struggle, two stand must there, you know. So and we totally respect the middle way approach. That's what we believe is this is one of the very kind opportunity for China to think about it, you know. That's a very kind of chance that central administration is giving to them to have a dialogue with His Holiness Dalai Lama. And what we're seeking is we are seeking our birth rights, you know. That's our rights, that we must do it, you know. And yeah, I think like and the middle way and independent, we both doesn't want to see that Tibetan inside Tibet to suffer under China. That's the main goal. You know, that's what we are working here.
How exactly does the non-violent aspect of the TYC kind of play into your day-to-day operations? How is that incorporated in a struggle with a government that has so explicitly exercised violent means upon the people of Tibet?
Actually, I'm like looking at the histories, like the Tibetan guerrillas. They have fought and killed many Chinese as well. During that time, the time demands that, you know. And since His Holiness have message to withdraw, and they totally accept, and then they withdraw the fight, you know, with China. And now in this 21st century, His Holiness go all around the world sending message that love and peace and compassion and non-violence, you know. And he's one of our guidance, you know. And that's why, like, right now we trying our best in any campaign to put a non-violence, you know. And let's see, in Tibet, the self-immolation, we believe is one of the highest non-violence act, you know. And the Chinese always says they have a domestic problems and all these things, and they made a lot of baseless statements like that, you know. But and also in Buddhism way, killing yourself is one of the biggest sin, you know. Like, but what we believe is that self-immolation is killing themselves but not hurting anyone. You know, if they decide to die, they can use a bomb and anything and kill many people together, but they choose only to die, kill themselves. And so as like that, whenever we organize any campaign, we always like in our mind is that to send a message to the world that Tibetan inside Tibet are suffering. You know, we are asking them to support, not only support, but take really in the real action, you know, or speak with China, you know. So that's what, like, whenever we organize campaign, we like our participants, we always tell them, you know, like advocate them that this is a fight not with the Indian police, because like when we do demonstration outside Chinese embassy, sometimes we become very out of control, you know. Sometimes like we use bad words and even like hit the police officer. But we always tell them this is not our fight with police officers, you know. So just try to maintain, focus on what we are here in outside Chinese embassy. So we just say what we have to say and use through the media, you know, sending a message. What China is doing is not totally a wrong thing, and then we do awareness, you know, what's happening inside Tibet. So we're not doing any violence. So that's what we're trying our best. But it's not a TYZ resolution that we will only do non-violence. You know, we never know. Right now we're giving a chance to China to really do the right thing, you know, and you never know. In a few years, if time demands, you know, you can't say anything. But right now, under His Holiness Dalai Lama's guidance, he's always speak love and compassion and non-violence. So we're just practicing his advice, you know. So putting in our campaign non-violence.
So to take kind of a turn from the TYC's international aims and just kind of focusing on what you guys are doing for Tibetans locally, just kind of through regional chapters, what are kind of some of the programs that you guys take on, your campaigns that you launch, other than protests?
Yeah, for us, like the TYC, when it was founded in 1970, our main priority is to do a social service in Tibetan community, you know, because like that is very important, because like that time, like everyone in exile totally new, right? You don't know language, like, you know, everything is new actually, weather, everything. So that time, like TYC is founded just to serve our community, and the second is also to preserve our culture and traditional. Because in exile, like that's the biggest fear, that, you know, mixing with the other culture and traditional. So our culture and traditional might slowly go away, you know, because like new generations coming up. So it's very important to preserve it. That's also one of our main aim, and one of the main goal is to found this TYC is to do a political activity, because that's the main thing. Because we are not here in exile as a economic problem. We're not economic refugee. We are political refugee here. So that's why like our duty and being in the like a freedom country, we have more responsibility and duty to highlight what's happening inside Tibet. That's what we've been doing it. Yeah.
How do you go about reaching the younger Tibetans that have, been born in exile and maybe don't have the same kind of fervor for an independent Tibet as you might have?
Yeah. So yes, TYC, we organize youth leadership training every end of year. So during that time, we invite many young, fresh, like coming generations to take part, and we give a training to them like 5-6 days. Not only we tell them about TYC, but also we tell them about how this Tibetan administrations run, the structures, everything. Then TYC, then the environment, how to use the media, and everything. So we give them training because the youth are like a future seeds of Tibet. So for us, it's very important. So our forefathers have done everything best they can, Now we are doing it. Now younger generation must overtake and take responsibility. So we time to time organize a youth leadership training. And in this TYC, we have lots of now leaders now working in Tibetan administrations and settlement officers. Most of them came from this platform, And so for myself also, this is one of the huge platform where you learn and you get to serve for people. Yeah.
How important do you think, with the rise of technology and especially the role of technology in activism nowadays, how important do you think it is that young Tibetans kind of find a way to utilize social media to the best of their advantage? And how does that work in a place like Tibet that is not as well connected with the rest of the world?
Yeah, technically, because nowadays, everything you get people know through social media, right? So for us, that's a very, very important tool. Whatever is coming up or what's our plan, what are we going to do, everything we advertise through social media, like tweet and Facebook or put in our website. And also we have try to connect inside Tibet through a social media as well, like a WeChat, It is very, very risky, these kind of apps, because this was made by China, but still Tibetan inside Tibet taking very much risk, that their life is in very risk while if they use these kind of apps and send information to exile. Because if you maybe you have heard in news that many people were arrested because sending information in exile through a WeChat, But because for us, this is very important, Because for them, this kind of tool, they send information to us. Because in Tibet, the China are not allowing the international media. So that's why they trying to use this kind of tool, even though their life is in risk, So as soon as we get this kind of information, for our duty is to highlight it, If we don't do it, then we're not doing our duty, because they're taking really a risk, to just send a small information. So social media is very, very advanced, And then we also tell our young. Whenever we meet that, use it in a good things, right way, because we Tibetan are not like other people, we have an extra responsibility. So if you're using a Facebook, don't just post a fashion and food and what you did today, the hangout, but use in the right way. Try to post what's happening inside Tibet, So whoever in your friend list, they will come to know about issues, Then one people share, two people share, many people come to know about these issues, So we try to like give education through like use a good tool like.
That makes sense. What kind of advice do you have, or just kind of expertise do you have, or do you tell young activists? I know that a lot of times people will move into the activist community, but will experience automatic failure for some kind of cause that they're working for, and then proceed to not involve themselves in that kind of work anymore. In a line of work that is often so frustrating, how do you find a way to kind of reconcile that shortcoming and to just keep moving forward?
Because like recently we have visited so many places, and we met many young Tibetan youths. We always tell them like being a Tibetan, you are not like other people. Whether you want or not, you have to do it. That's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to be the voice of voiceless Tibetan inside Tibet. You are born with the R on your forehead, means refugee. Whether you like it or not, you have to take responsibility. Otherwise, there's a karmic. You're not going to be that like doing responsible being a Tibetan. So we always tell them it is not that easy. This like path is very difficult, but still we shouldn't give up, because the freedom is on the way actually, so we must walk. If we want freedom, we must walk, because this is not like someone will come and give to you. You have to fight for it, so we will tell our youth this, like, you have no excuse actually, you have to do it, so that's what we tell them.
Do you have any kind of insights, because obviously the status of refugees has become a very contentious topic in global politics. Do you have any kind of interaction with other refugee groups, for one, or any kind of advice that you would offer to people that suddenly find themselves as political exiles in Europe or the West or locally?
Yeah, because like for me, being a refugee, Tibetan refugee, I know how it feels to be a refugee. And so I always have a solidarity to other refugees as well. And I also study, how other refugees, like a Burma refugee, Rohingya, they're also suffering a lot, So I always have a solidarity to them. And for us, is being a political refugee and living in exile, for us it's very important to work together with the other nations who are also suffering under China, like Taiwan, Hong Kong, and so many other countries, even Chinese, so we are working together. We are quite close with them, and because our enemies is always not Chinese, but the government, So we have a lot of Chinese students also come to our office. So we also share with them, and what they should also do to, help their own people. Because once you also got opportunity like we got, come to Exile and get to studies. And there's some Chinese who are studying in Canada, USA, that they must know how their people also suffering under their own government, And so this kind of sharing informations. So we became more close and close, and we have a plan to do together, sometime conference or campaign. Yeah, we have making a strategy on that. Yeah.
So obviously you've been talking about how important it is building solidarity internationally, talking with other governments and other groups. With your position coming to an end in 2019 is when you said it was, what do you think your future position is going to look like? What do you kind of have any plans? How are you going to keep being active in the activist community for the Tibetan cause?
Actually, frankly speaking, I don't have any future plans. It's kind of strange, right? But for me, being a refugee, because I'm born Tibetan, so till you die, you have to do it. Till your last breath, you have a responsibility. So even though my term finished in TYC, but I'm still Tibetan. So I will do best what I can, you know, my duty to serve for Tibet, you know, that I will do it. So, but not specific like a plan that I will do this, do that. I don't have any plan. Yeah.
What do you have any kind of aspirations for the TYC as a whole? Were there anything about the organization that you think needs to be maybe changed or at least kind of redirected to be more efficient?
Yeah, that we're doing it. I mean, like TYC, actually, our TYC funding or members are only from Tibetan and for Tibetan, actually, you know. So now what we're doing is it's very important to work together with other nations who are under China. So that's our plan, and this kind of like, that's also a change, you know, that we're working together. And also the environment thing, it's very, very important, because like a Tibet environment is like a Asia's security, not only Asia but the world, you know, in large, if I say, because like Tibet, now like global warming, right? It's changing everything. And also in Tibet, like China's like mining and deforestations, everything will impact in future, you know. So in like after many years, if still keep on going, we might not even get a fresh water or fresh air to breathe, you know. So it's not only Tibetan duty to preserve it, but also everyone's responsibility to preserve the environment, Tibet's environment. That's the main thing coming out, you know, and especially water in Asia, all coming from Tibet, you know. So that's what we are working on, the environment. That's very, very important. And just recently we had a symposium on Tibet's environment and Asia's security. So in future as well, we have a conference with the other nations just on the environment, how we can protect, how we can pressure China to stop doing like mining, all these things. Yeah.
You mentioned funding for the TYC.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go quickly just kind of into how that's all allocated. You said it was Tibetan raised and things?
The funding is all come from the member, TYC member, and the member is only Tibetan. You know, in Exile since 1959 we are here, and for education, for health, for resettlement, everything we are depending on foreigners like funding, right? But for a struggle, if we still depend on them, then where our struggle is going to be, you know? So TYC, what our main thing is that this is our struggle, Tibetans should contribute, you know. So we never ever take funding from any international funding. We only fundraise or through membership, or when we organize any campaign, then people come to us and give donation. Through that's how TYC runs. And this is, I think, very, very important, you know. And this is the only NGO, I'm very proud to say that, only run by Tibetan and for Tibetan. Yeah.
So to tie that into kind of current events, with the new President Trump has so far allocated no kind of money to be going to the, it was announced that no kind of foreign aid would be going to the Central Tibetan administration. And so do you think with that kind of, with things getting tight, at least in terms of foreign aid, do you think that a certain sense of responsibility will fall onto the TYC to kind of pick up some slack if anything slows down a little bit with foreign aid going up, leaving?
Actually, that since Trump have given this kind of statement that cut the budget 2018, that will not really affect TYC because our funding is only from Tibet, right? Yeah. But we have a concern, we really feel worried, you know, because this is funding for Tibet actually, for Tibetan in exile and inside Tibet both, you know. So we are also trying our best to push that senator, that U.S. senator to change this. I mean, like when during their parliament, not to pass it, you know. So, and then also I remember the Indian Prime Minister, Modi, also traveling very soon to USA and meeting with the Trump. And I think also we will also lobby and request Narendra Modi to, you know, do the like pressure. I mean, like request that USA administration to, not do this kind of thing. I mean, like the Trump's, his budget cut shouldn't be, successful.
Yeah. Do you think that in actions like this, where necessary foreign aid gets cut, do you think that there's a certain misunderstanding in the West in regards to the Tibetan situation? Do you think that there's anything that needs to be explained more clearly?
I don't think so. Because I know like other countries, they know that, that's my belief, that they know what Trump is doing is the wrong thing.
Okay.
And then I don't think for that we need to do any explanation.
Sure. Your kind of just day-to-day routine, what do you think really is the real kind of, I'm trying to look for the word, I'm sorry, driving force behind you? Like, what do you think inspires you to get up and do what you do every day? And what are some things that maybe make you question yourself sometimes? Do you ever have those kind of doubts about, like, just wondering whether or not you can keep going?
Actually, yeah. Like we are here because we are from Nepal, right? I'm from Nepal, and some of our executive members are from different country, and we're very proud to say that we left everything, our job, family, friends, everything, and we came in Dharamsala and worked for a cause, and yeah, like when I go to bed, I always think that today what I did is the right thing or not. Sometimes, the frank speaking, I really feel kind of helpless, but still our Tibetan brothers and sisters are still suffering. What we do is not that enough, so we should do more. And I also stayed in an indefinite hunger strike in 2015. And that is also one of my contribution for my people, to put my life, not eating anything, only water. And during that time I was totally hopeless, because what we're doing is not that enough. We should do more. So that's why, like, sacrificed, because like inside Tibet, they sacrifice a lot, And when we meet Tibetan inside Tibet who come to sometimes India, we meet secretly, but their message is only one thing, is that Tibetan in exile, please, you guys stay unity and preserve culture and traditional. But back in Tibet, we will do everything to take back land from China. Don't worry about us. Even though they are in a very dangerous stage, but still they are very, very strong, and so much hope to us, and tell us this kind of thing, And that's what we think, like, I really think like what I'm doing is not that enough, So that's what I decided in 2015 to stay in indefinite hunger strike. And only having water for 22 days, no food at all. And that was like our commitment to like give our life actually. But unfortunately it didn't happen, that indefinite hunger strike was called off. Because like the United Nations, the representative came, that was one of the biggest achievement in our TYC history, because like TYC have organized almost 14 times indefinite hunger strike since 1970. But 2015 was the day that we made actually the United Nations to come to the floor where we are staying in indefinite hunger strike, and then talk for Tibet, And still, like, they have said like they are working for us, but there's nothing is happening. United Nations, it's nothing changed actually. Situation, nothing changed in Tibet. So right now also our demand is the same thing, special session for Tibet, in United Nations meeting. So we will continue, like whenever we do any campaign. And recently we did a coffin march, represent like a self-immolation, those like 150 self-immolated inside Tibet. We took a coffin and marched till United Nations. we left everything in coffin, because coffin is representative those who have sacrificed for Tibet. Now do the right thing, because they have promised one thing, but they're not doing it. So, but whether they do it or not, but we have a slightly belief that they will do it, but it will take time, because China is too strong. So, but we still believe on them, and we're still waking them up. Actually, do your duty. The duty is to not to any people to suffer, right? So, and then Tibetan are also one of the human. If they have a humanity, and then they really respect human rights, freedom of speech, they should really pressure China, and we will continue our campaign.
Could you tell me a bit about the 2015 hunger strike? Just kind of maybe what went into organizing it, how it felt, what were some realizations or thoughts that you had during it, and also what do you think was kind of the catalyst for the United Nations representative coming to finally end it after so many organized hunger strikes and no kind of reaction?
Firstly, because when we decided to do an indefinite hunger strike, we have an organizing committee, and me and my two colleagues were willing to take part, and that was totally a secret between us. Nobody know about it. Who's going to stay, because we have given application that this is a very, very important decision that we have not discussed with nobody, not even with our parents, And when we stayed in the first day, everyone was shocked actually, who is staying, And my family especially were totally shocked, because this is not that easy. You're putting your life, And but for in Delhi, when you don't eat lunch or dinner, you really feel very hungry, right? My experience during the indefinite hunger strike was kind of miracle actually, because what I learned is if you're really, really willing to do it, no matter what happens, nothing happened to you actually, because you have a blessing from so many people. I don't feel hungry at all that time, only day are passing, 2 weeks, the mouth becomes so dry, you feel so lazy, kind of thing. But we that time we have 3 people who stay in hunger strike. We 3 are still very active, interact with the people who come to visit us, and those who come, the media people, when they interview, we're it was kind of normal, because our bodies were becoming weaker and weaker, weight is going low and low, but still we are very much in kind of what to say, I'm saying it's totally a miracle, and yeah, it was because we only have things in mind that whatever we're doing is nothing, compared to Tibetan inside Tibet, what they're doing for us, that really made us hold us strong, gave us so much strength at that time.
What do you think was the kind of defining aspect of your hunger strike that made such an international uproar, that made the United Nations of all entities to actually recognize the Tibetan situation?
Yeah, and during that time, because hunger strike is not that easy. It's not one day. It's keep on going it, and international media also help a lot to world to know about it, Tibetan issues, through a hunger strike as well, because the one person is putting their life and not eating anything day by day, becoming weaker and weaker. These news updates going on, and and then not only international people come to know, but also made Tibetan community also unity. They really feel very worried for us, and that's how there's no a stand, middle way or rangzen, independent. Everybody became really unity, because we are not seeking that time free Tibet, we are just have a few demands that should be solved, should be pressure China through UNO. So that also made in our community also quite unity, that for me also have a very, very strong, good feeling, by saying like, oh, what I did is not a wrong decision, this kind of feeling, you know. And because you look at me, I'm quite skinny, but still I stay in a hunger strike. So many people were worried, you know, internationally. And then I only able to stay 22 days, but my colleagues, they stayed till 34 days, you know. So when I was picked up by police and took into hospital, that became very international news, you know. And that also pressured United Nations as well. And then so many people, Tibet support group, Tibetan NGO, Tibetan administration, everybody worked together during that time, sending letters to United Nations and like, you know, answer the demands of TYC, indefinite hunger strike. That also made the United Nations representative to come to the floor to answer. And on the 35th day, early morning, that United Nations representative came. And that's how indefinite hunger strike called off that day.
Yeah. You mentioned how it was one of the defining achievements that the TYC has had so far. Do you think that because of its effectiveness, the TYC would organize another hunger strike in the future? Do you think that you yourself would be willing to participate in another hunger strike?
Definitely, when times demand, because like without a sacrifice, you know, I don't think freedom will be achieved, you know. So yeah, if I have to stay, I will definitely stay. That's my life. I have given my life dedication for Tibet, you know. So if I have to, if I given a chance, definitely, why not?
Yeah. What do you think the kind of line is in terms of sacrifice? Obviously, there are lasting health effects that are associated with a hunger strike. If it goes on for too long or something like that, it can be, you know, very detrimental to one's health. I'm just wondering more kind of about the levels of responsibility that should all Tibetans be ready to go into a hunger strike, or should you know, the more dedicated ones be ready to do it? What are your kind of opinions on Tibetans who maybe see the whole issue as being just kind of removed from them, you know, like maybe not as important to them as it is to people here in exile in India or in Nepal or Bhutan, maybe so like a Tibetan in the United States?
Yeah, like doing these indefinite hunger strikes, like we're not asking other Tibetans to do the same. We only reminding them to do your duty, you know, being a Tibetan, you know, that's what only we are reminding them. And also like recently we have visited many settlement and met so many peoples. And what good thing is like when we meet many people, they speak to us like they're willing to, if in future if TY is organizing, I'm willing to stay. This kind of like coming up from the people, you know, public. That's also one of the achievement what we've been doing it, you know. And also like self-immolation. Like many people question to us as well that why TY is not saying to stop self-immolation, you know. That's many, like especially internationally, people have lots of questions, you know. But what we tell them is we are born and brought up in exile, and we are not suffer like what Tibetan brothers and sisters suffering, you know. And they know how they're going through, you know, under China restrictions. So living in like freedom country, we don't have a right to tell them what to do, what not to do, you know. So we don't have a right to tell them to, you know, don't do it.
Obviously, you've mentioned how no matter what you guys go through as a community in exile, the people that are still in Tibet probably have it worse. Do you have any kind of insight as to the current conditions in Tibet right now? Just kind of any information?
Yeah, like recently, I'm sure you may know that Kala Chakra happened in January, this early year. And this is one of the examples that how situations is inside Tibet. Like before in 2012, that when the Kala Chakra happened in Bihar and Bodh Gaya, almost 2 lakh Tibetan were there, and then almost 50,000 came from Tibet, who came to meet His Holiness and get teaching from him. But this year was totally different, though around 2,000 Tibetan made to come here, but China have sent a message or pressure the family inside Tibet that those whoever in exile for pilgrim to come, tell them to come back. Otherwise, like their family or members are going to have a problem. Like those who are working in government office, they will be expelled. Or those children, those who are studying, they will be kicked out from school. This kind of like a pressure, And then many Tibetan who are already in India, like maximum have to go back, without their wishes, because they only came here to get teaching from His Holiness and blessing from His Holiness, But it was a very, very hard decision for them, But they had to go back to save their family. And but I have met one guy who are totally set up his mind to stay till that Kalachakra finished, But when this kind of like pressure are given to their family in Tibet, and how he gone through doing this kind of teaching, like he couldn't control himself because he wanted to have a blessing and get a teaching from his own master, from Dalai Lama, but same time his family member in Tibet are suffering. So that time he totally gone through mental trauma, and we had to help him, to tide him, because he having a panic attack time to time, He couldn't control himself. That thing we saw, like how Tibetan are like going through, he's in a freedom country, but he's not like free, So much going through inside his mind, So yeah, he gone through very bad days during these few days. This is one of the example. Yeah.
You mentioned the Dalai Lama, and obviously a lot of Chinese kind of oppression towards the Tibetan people is also kind of posed towards the Dalai Lama in trying to make sure that people don't go see him, don't receive teachings from him. They, will tarnish his name or something like that. In your opinion, do you think that the current Dalai Lama is going to be returning to Tibet within his lifetime?
Yeah, sure. His Holiness says that. So, of course, we believe on his word, And because we are also very blessed that whenever His Holiness stays, he's going to live for 113, And that's our wishes as well, to live him more longer than that, And and then, because we are working hard also for this, to take back His Holiness to palace, and also to reunite with the Tibetan inside outside, and also get a blessing of His Holiness those who are still inside Tibet, That's hope and kind of a dream we all have, actually. Yeah.
This is my final question. I just want to put it out there by saying thank you so much on behalf of myself and the rest of the text program. We really have enjoyed listening to your story, and we look forward to archiving it and using it as a resource in our oral history project. My final question is just your final opinions. Like, what are your hopes for the future of Tibet? If you have any kind of overarching aspirations.
Yeah, definitely go back to free Tibet. That's the only thing, because our father generations, like forefathers, maximum of them are already passed away. Those who are still left, they still dream to go back to free Tibet. So our duty to take them back to where they came from, where they were born up. And also like us, because in my generation, if I didn't get able to go back, but still my younger generation to overtake and continue to take the same aspiration and continue this struggle, and dream of going back and taking back His Holiness the Dalai Lama to Tibet, that we all should work together, Together we are stronger. So yeah, that's the only thing and hope, and also a request to my fellow Tibetan and also a foreigner like you, to whatever you know about Tibet issue, I hope that you will share your friends and families and also pressure your government to really take action and pressure China. And also, I'm sure you guys respect human rights, and Tibetan inside Tibet are still suffering, and that's the biggest worry for us, you know. So we don't want to see them to suffer. Like, so we are in freedom country, but they are really suffering every day and night. So we must all work together. If we all believe in humanity, that's only today I'm also sharing whatever I know is also believe that you will also join us, this kind of cause, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We really
Thank
appreciate
you so
it.
much.